Okay, welcome to the October meeting of the Newbury Human Resources Board. It is 3:58. Let's start our meeting with a call to order. Present are
Diane Doyle,
John Lucy,
Mark Kleckman,
John Ferrara,
Anthony Antico.
Thank you. Everyone is on board. We have our official quorum. Second order of business is to approve the minutes from the prior meeting. Diane, thank you in advance for forwarding those. This is the minutes of the meeting held on September the 27th. I'd ask everyone just to take a quick moment and review those if you haven't already, or just double check, and we'll then take a vote to accept.
good that we're going to get a lane patrolman.
I fixed that.
I know you did.
Okay.
I couldn't help myself.
That was bad.
Every once in a while it sneaks in there. An error.
Yeah,
Has everyone had an opportunity to review? Is there a motion to accept?
motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Changes, edits? No? With that in mind, all those in favor of accepting the minutes of the September 27th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Again, thank you, Diane. Employee issues, none that I'm aware of. Let me turn to either Chief Lucy or Diane. Anything that the board should be aware of relative to employee issues?
nothing on my front.
Diane, no? Okay, thank you. Personnel actions and job vacancies. Last month, Chief Lucy, you were talking about actively recruiting for emergency communications officers or folks that are manning the technology, the phones. Anything new there?
Nothing new, we're still advertising. Actually, we have one candidate we're looking at right now doing a background on. So
Great. How many positions are there to fill?
we could easily take for part-time three part-times, yeah. We could keep three busy.
Okay, and you also had talked about the Bridge Academy for...
Yep, that's on schedule, that's progressing.
Great, thank you. Diane, anything in the area of personnel actions and or job vacancies from town hall or library or any other departments?
I believe the last meeting I had talked about the ones that have been filled. I don't think we have any current. Actually, I take that back. We did have a resignation from one of our DPW mechanics.
Okay.
So he left on October 7th, and that is actively being advertised as we speak to be filled.
Okay, thank you.
He went back to work for the union, so he's not going to another municipality.
Okay,
So I believe that's the only open position that we have at this point.
thank you. Discrimination and or ethics issues?
Did you want to speak to the workplace before it on the agenda? Do you want me to add in workplace?
Oh, did you? Yeah, I don't see it on the new agenda. Maybe that was before
It's on the new one.
before we talked. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had mentioned to Diane that just in terms of wordsmithing, our agenda, our monthly agenda, I would direct you to number 5, discrimination and or ethics issues. And I said to Diane that I can't remember the last time, and this is a good thing, I can't remember the last time that anything hit this board's attention that would fall into the specific category of either a discrimination issue in the workplace or an ethics issue. And again, it's a good thing. Everything's been clean for the last few years. I can't remember the last time we had a discussion of either one of these. And then I thought, just to sort of broaden the concept, that what we don't have is a place to put what I would call sort of generic workplace issues, things that may not rise to the level of a discrimination issue or an ethical issue, but anything that a town employee might raise as a workplace issue. And again, I'm not sure what that category would include, but it's sort of a broader bucket, if you will. And I thought that that might be a good place to add that word at number 5. So going forward, we would call this agenda item workplace/ethics/discrimination. So that if anything came up that didn't fit in the ethics or discrimination category, but it's still a workplace issue, this would be the place that we would bring it to the board's attention. Does that make sense?
A catch-all.
Thoughts?
So in essence, what you're basically saying is that workplace or ethics or
Correct.
discrimination.
Correct. Yeah.
So some
Any-
of
any
these
of the-
things that might happen in a workplace setting obviously might not be related to ethics or
Correct.
discrimination.
Yeah, it could be any of the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, again, the good news is we've had very few workplace issues pop up during the years as well, which again, I think speaks to the quality of the staff, speaks to the quality of the management, the quality of the overall town administration. But I thought that, should something come up, we would need a place to put it.
The most likely would be behavior unbecoming.
Could well be.
I mean, you look at the UCMJ, Article 134 is a giant net that talks about no crimes, no felonies, no theft, no assault, but unbecoming, the standard you're expected to maintain. And it's a catch-all, and it's pretty harsh in its finding.
Right, exactly. Catch-all is a good word to use. It's just an opportunity for us to discuss anything that might come to us, whether it's town hall, the library, police force, fire department, anything that would fit under the general category of, a workplace issue that needs to be addressed by this board. This would be the place to put it. And we really never had it described as such. It's not a personnel action or a job vacancy. It's something different than that. So I don't know if the board feels we need to take a vote on the word change, or just something that you folks are comfortable with.
It's the script.
Yes, just,
Chief, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think you probably should just, for procedural, take a vote on it.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
I did.
I think the result's gonna be, but just so for
Thank
consistency.
you. It's a good idea. Yeah. Is there a motion to accept the word change?
Motion.
A second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Any further discussion?
Very good.
With that in mind, all those in favor of adding the word workplace to discrimination and ethics as an issue to be discussed in point number 5 of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Number 6, safety issues. Chief, anything that we should be aware of? COVID remains
Yep.
relatively at bay?
Yeah, it's just, we're still holding very, very minimal effect, very minimal count. There's no action to be taken, just kind of stand back and wait and see.
Yep. Good, thank you. Diane, things are good at Town Hall?
yeah, I haven't had any issues.
Yeah. Nothing's changed in the last 60 days, I think, since the last iteration about the public being welcome back into the facility and
No.
masking and so forth.
Everything is pretty much the same. We're not wearing masks. We still have plexiglass front-facing counters. We do still restrict anybody coming into the office. If there are meetings to happen, they come up here and it's cleaned afterwards. But,
Right,
I mean, I haven't had any issues.
good. So none of the public-facing employees in Town Hall have had any issues relative to...
It depends on what the term safety means. Zoe Elm Street in Boston Road.
Yeah.
Nope, and we passed out the further guidance
Yep.
that I think we talked about at the last meeting, on a case-by-case basis. If people are either exposed or have issues, the protocol to go through. I think that was discussed at the last meeting.
Right.
Yeah, and that's been implemented, and, yeah, it's just basically a documentation, to ensure the follow-up of any reported or concerned instances involving COVID.
Good, thank you.
Gives the department head some direction, as well as the employees.
Okay. In the broad category of other business, I did have an opportunity to speak with Tracy mid-last week, finding we got caught up on the issue of performance evaluations and or reviews. As we talked about last month, the first thing I wanted to do is just to make sure that Tracy, as the town administrator, still is a believer in has an appetite for something to be put in place, yet to be determined what that would be. But I thought the first step would be just to make sure that Tracy was still a fan of performance evaluations, performance reviews, which she has stated to us in the past she was, but it had been a while, so I did have an opportunity to speak with her, and she reconfirmed that it's something that she would like to see implemented at some point, with the understanding that you know, some work needs to be done if and when we get the green light to do so, to create a, if you will, a user-friendly, simple but effective tool that the town can use, the managers can use, the employees can use to create dialogue, to talk about performance, to talk about goals, to talk about expectations, hash out any issues that need to be addressed, and go from there. So it's yet to be determined what type of document would be used, how simple, how, you know, is it a one-page, you know, three topic? Is it 7 pages with metrics and you know, 1 through 10s, and
It'd be different for every department.
something in between?
I would think the standards for each department would be remarkably different. Obviously, for the fire and police, not only the usual behavioral aspects and performance aspects, but conditioning and commitment to training, whereas the department for public works would be entirely different. And those who are in touch with the public, again, an entirely different list, a checklist. The fitness reports would reflect probably those elements most likely to department head standards and all the organic aspect of that. They're all going to be different. What each department head should expect from their personnel is going to range with what they actually do when they get to work.
Could be as simple as just the phrase meets the expectations of the position in the department.
That's right.
Any negative things would just be listed, but if it meets the expectations, that's it. Might just be a one-page thing, and that way there it's boilerplate across the.
Yeah, I think, you know, clearly what we would need to do, well, in terms of sequencing, now that Tracy has stated that her preference is to have something created, the next step will be for us to get this conceptually, not a document, but just conceptually get in front of the select board. The select board would need to give us their blessing that they are on board with something being created. And at that point, it comes back to this board. We'll create the subcommittee, and we'll go to work. And you know, I've still got at home a lot of the homework, the research I did 2 to 3 years ago, I think, when this subject first came up, speaking to various similar towns, speaking to their HR directors or the TA or the, you know, whoever would be in charge of that at different towns. And if you recall, I mentioned a couple months ago that the responses were all over the place, as you might expect. If I spoke to 10 towns, you know, 4 of them were absolute fans of performance reviews. They were on board, they had created something, they were comfortable with them, and they were moving forward. 4 other towns made it clear that you know, they had done some homework on it and had chosen not to, for varied and sundry reasons, you know. And there was at least one that I recall that had implemented something a year or so earlier and already was collecting dust. So it's safe to say that there is no unanimous consent here among towns similar to Newbury as to whether they're good, whether they're necessary, whether they're effective. But again, we're not going to be, you know, we're not going to take our marching orders from other towns. We'll decide, you know, along with the town administrator, with the department managers, with the select board, whether it's something that we would like to see implemented in Newbury.
Maybe broaden the scope a little bit too, go in the corporate world and see, because I mean, the town, municipality is different,
Yeah.
and so maybe pulling some ideas from the corporate level too.
Yeah, and I can tell you that there is no unanimous consent in the corporate world. I mean, when I was running an enterprise of, you know, 50 people 10 years ago before retirement. There were years that we were championing the use of them, and other years we realized that for whatever reason they weren't that effective. And so it really is all over the lot. There is no, you listen to the business school folks, and in one year they say it's the best thing since sliced bread, and other years they say they're counterproductive. So
it gets complicated. Subjectivity is the issue.
right, and that's why we've been batting this around for a while.
And the absolute requirement that if an employee feels that the assessment is altogether subjective, they're going to want a redress. They want to take it up to a broader hearing. And I've spoken to two of the board members. It's not fair to mention whom, and it came down to, do we have the bandwidth to do this when there's so much on our table right now, so many things that we need to do that are on an element of 1 to 10 importance, a lot of 10s.
You talk about the select board?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the good news is all the select board has to do is give us their blessing.
Yeah.
They only have to do one performance review, and that's Tracy, as far as I know.
Until it gets picked up.
I'm sorry?
Until you have a review hearing or something, because if you are generating a document that's assessing somebody, there has to be some relief if they want to object it. It's
Sure.
going to be a process, and that's got to go up.
Sure, and this would be the first form of relief, I would think, the HR board. But the point is, it's a worthwhile subject for us to get into, I think. And look, as I said a couple months ago, what I don't want to do is to task this board or a subcommittee with a lot of work, and it will take some work, to find the right document or to cobble together pieces from 10 different documents to create something that we're comfortable with, only to find out that the select board, which has the ultimate authority of adding this to the personnel policy, correct? Yeah. It's no longer, it used to be town meeting, now it's the select board. I don't want to burden anyone on this team with a lot of work that's going to fall on deaf ears. And I'm not presupposing that it will, but so the point is, Tracy seems to be on board. Our intention is to get it on, our hope is to get it on a select board agenda in the very near future, just to take their temperature, to see how they feel individually and collectively about the concept, not what the finished document's going to look like, but conceptually, is it something they would like to see us accomplish? And if so, bring it back to this board, create a subcommittee, and we're off and running. Tony?
Talking about the concept, I don't think we've really ever made the most rudimentary of frames of this thing. I know in the personnel policy manual that we have cobbled together, I guess, the evaluation is addressed, and there are procedures in a policy manual. So you have to look at that as well, and also as well as any potential union issues. We've talked about that before.
Sure.
Right.
And I think the third one is the most important one again. We're talking about this as it exists on like a philosophical plane. Performance management. Well, what does it mean? It's a byword.
Right.
Things like that, like critical race theory. And people go crazy when they hear that, for some reason. But I don't know whether we have actually approached that. It may very well be that some of the ideas that you have discussed with the other towns, maybe sometime we could, you could take like a little précis from those and discuss it among ourselves. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a concept that it gets talked about, and online I've read a couple of articles from the Wharton School of Business, and I'm saying I was lost.
Yeah.
I was lost in it. But,
yeah. The other thing, that's a good point, Tony. Thank you. The other thing I should mention is I would think that town council would probably play some role in this process. Before we, if in fact we get the okay from the select board just to start noodling on the subject, I would think the town council would need, we would want to have some input from them as to whether there are legalities involved, so forth and so on. That'll be a piece of the process as well.
Another piece you don't want to lose sight of too is the stakeholders in the sense of the department heads. At some point, they need to be a part of the dialogue. Implementation's going to be on them, so.
I just wrote that down. Don't, state department heads need their input.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We cannot jump over their heads and impose something on them. They have to be brought in the embryo, the inaugural stages.
Right.
They've been meeting with one appointed HR member to meet with the department heads. Do they meet regularly as a group ever?
We've been meeting every couple months.
I was gonna say, is it every other month typically,
It's
Tracy?
usually 3 months, every 3 months or so.
Yeah.
Quarterly.
Yeah, just, it might just be an agenda item.
Absolutely.
They come here.
Is there one coming up in the next 30 days, do you know?
I think we just had one.
I actually think, is it next month? I thought she was floating a date, I don't know, we can find
Right.
out. Even just for the perception of the optics of it, having them in as soon as possible with the disclosure, hey, this is what we're looking at. Because no matter if you bring them in 4 steps down the line, there's, you know.
Well, here's an idea. Absolutely agree. I would think that if this is put on a select board agenda, and if it passes muster with a majority of the select board as a to-do item, the next step would be to create a subcommittee, and perhaps that's the point at which we invite, you know, through Tracy, we invite a representative number of the department managers in town to sit on the subcommittee.
In a
Help us
perfect
draft
world,
a
if
document.
there's going to be a managers meeting, you could talk about, or you could talk to Tracy, can you just put that in your next meeting?
Yeah.
If it's hopefully, you know,
Yeah.
coming soon, just to unroll that, this is
Yeah.
what we're looking at.
Right, and if that meeting is 60 days away, then we'll make sure that Tracy translates that onto the managers in some other fashion if it's not a group meeting.
Mark,
So-
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just a point, when, I think John said, well, here's what we're looking at, this has to be defined.
Mhm.
What are we looking at?
Right.
You know, I mean, again, it's it's being in a tumble dryer right now. Performance management. Well, what exactly is it? You know, what are the criteria? You were talking before, Diane, about you had a book that you went to a course.
I took a supervisory leadership training course, and one of the chapters of the 5 was on performance management.
Okay.
And there were some samples given, and I still have the contact information. It's through UMass Amherst and the Center, Collins Center for Excellence or something. But there were examples in there, and there was a whole discussion on, you know, how to go about doing that.
Is it
So-
possible that you could make a copy of those relevant pages?
Sure, I could scan it and email it.
Put them out, and, you know, we can actually look at what they say.
Yep. I think first and foremost, we need to get in front of the Board of Selectmen. Because if they say, we're not interested in moving forward, I mean, at this point, well, I mean, at that point,
I think it's understood that, that nothing happens without that blessing.
Yeah.
But this is more like, okay, we expect there's gonna be, we'll
Yeah.
go from
Yeah,
there.
Tony, just to be clear, are you suggesting that we might need more definition of this before we even bring it to the select board for the
Because
conceptual?
I can foresee the questions you're gonna get from the board members.
Mhm.
They're gonna be, what are you talking about?
What does
You
it
know?
look like?
What does it look like? What difference do we have, and what are the differences from our evaluations now?
All right,
You
well,
know,
let me
kind of
take
a
that,
thing.
let me take that conversation to Tracy, I think it's a good point, and see if she's got sort of a template in mind for, because she's used them in the past, she's mentioned that to me. So let me see if she has a template in mind of, look, these are the 3 things I would like to accomplish, this is Tracy speaking. These are the 3 things I would like to accomplish in the creation of this, you know. This is conceptually what it might look like, just to be able to give the select board a little bit of definition here. I mean, we're not gonna be, I don't think we're gonna have a chance to go chapter and verse with them to have this initial conversation, but you make a good point. Just to
there's
give
no-
them
I
a little
don't-
bit more to chew on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it has to be better than the present evaluation process.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the present evaluation process only speaks to grievances.
the only thing that's in there, we actually removed the section where it spoke about annual performance evaluations.
Right.
Because we weren't doing them, we said we can't pass a new
Yeah,
document.
there is no reference to it now.
So the only thing that's in there is a grievance process.
I think, I hear what you're saying, but I really think that simple unveiling of, are you still interested in looking at a process, the definition of which we can't provide for you right now because we want the blessing to move forward, that you're still interested in a process, that at a later meeting, that we can present as it starts to take form. I think that I really think you want to keep it as vague as that, because that's exactly what it is. And I think they understand that. I think you can say, look, there's been speak of a need or a desire to standardize evaluations across the board. We do not have a program in place. We have a lot of discussion to happen. We're trying on a lot of things for size. But before we go through all that effort, we just want to know, is the select board, do they have an appetite to do that process? That's it. And if they want anything more than that, it's simple. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Those we hope to be able to answer in subsequent meetings, but we just want to know, do you want to standardize that? Something along those lines.
Yeah, I think we can come up with 3 or 4
Yeah.
sort of generic bullet points, I mean, that speak to what our goals are, what Tracy's goals are, would be in the creation and implementation of this kind of a program.
Almost to the point of a view of assuming that we don't have anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I think that's one way to go. You said that it was deleted from the,
We took it out because it referenced the fact that we were doing performance evaluations annually, and we weren't. So we said we can't leave something in a document that we know we're not
That's
following
right.
through with. So we took it out, extracted it back in March. I think the other point I was gonna make is that I think the timing might be interesting because we are looking at updating the personnel policy manual, which is item 7 under new business. And maybe what we could do is, we could say that in reviewing these updates, in conjunction with what Tracy's interested in doing, we are now again putting before the Board of Selectmen the concept of, rather than just a grievance process, a performance evaluation process, and is this something that they would like us to go forward with? Because, we are updating the policy document as it is right now. So maybe the timing was good that we could reference this performance evaluation.
Yeah, just we're circling back to some unfinished discussions that, that haven't been, we want to pull over the finish line. If you come right out and you say, we have nothing in the way of definition to tell you what we're looking at, we just want your blessing, we're looking to see if you're still interested in moving forward. If you come right out and say, don't ask us what it means in your eloquent way, don't ask us what we're asking you for, because we don't have that answer yet, but we just want to know, is the board still supporting or amenable to pursuing this?
Yeah, they're not approving the process.
No,
No.
absolutely
So
not.
I think that's the difference. We're not asking them to blanketly approve the process. We're asking them, are you interested in having us go back?
We don't want to go on a fool's errand.
Right.
It's basically it. We
Given
wanna
that
be
we're
sure
looking at the
it's-
personnel policy, the issue had been brought up previously, it's still sanctioned by town administrator, we are looking again to see if this is something you would like us to come back to you with,
Right.
sort of a proposed.
Right. And they always have the opportunity to say yea or nay
Yeah.
once the concept of the document is in place, so.
Or you go the other route and you wait till you have something to present, you
See,
just-
that's where I prefer.
Yeah, just do something and then present, this is what we put, based on the last directive, however long ago it was, doesn't matter, the directive didn't expire. Just put the work in, put something together and present it and get a jump off point, that's the other option.
If I'm sitting at the select table, I'm going to ask, what do other dues?
Just to go forward.
I thought
What to what?
No,
I
last time.
don't want to interrupt the exchange.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What was the temperature of the board when we brought it to them before? I thought it was that they were not interested in us moving.
No bandwidth.
It was at best a lukewarm response.
Okay,
And that's going back to,
But yeah, this is a differently
Couple of years.
constituted board.
yeah.
Right.
There were at least 2 or 3 current board members who weren't on the board then, so, I don't wanna make too much of the fact that 2.5 years ago, or whenever it was that I presented it,
Oh, that's right.
it felt
Yeah.
pretty flat. Other priorities came up, we moved ahead, and we just sort of put this aside, but now the time seems to be appropriate to once again bring it up, so, Tony, I think we can, to John's point, I think we can cobble together enough sort of generic, there are multiple reasons why it would be good for the town to consider this. We don't have a document yet. Our intention is to put one together, but before we do that, we're interested in understanding how you feel about the concept of performance reviews. Are you a believer? What concerns do you have initially that we can help address? You know, one of the things we haven't talked about today, which I'm always concerned about, is protecting the town. You know, there are horror stories out there about, no, I'm not talking in Newbury, I mean, you know, in other municipalities talking about.
Order and structure has to be consistent.
Yes.
And as a written document. We're not gonna go in with a white paper to the Board of Selectmen. We're gonna go in with an abstract, but that abstract ought to be able to say in gentle and simple, very, very standard terms, what other towns and municipalities are doing, why is it necessary? And these are questions I would ask if I were sitting on this side of the table, is why are we doing this now? And then the answer is we need to bring order and structure and a standardization that'll help the department heads issue reports and protect them if they have to file a grievance, their grievance, because of lack of performance or misbehavior or, as I mentioned before, actions unbecoming, all of the above.
The other thing that I think you might want to have in place before you unveil this is just the sustainability of it. You know, you might want to have just some sort of a gloss over. We don't have the document, but this is the you know, we'll have the document, and this is the relief. If there's, you know, you always have to have part of the mechanism for review or relief, and this is the path that it takes. You know, you can have that structured for your presentation, but just not what, you know, what the document is. Because I'm sure if I was sitting in that board, those basic questions would be the first thing.
Yeah.
All good points, thank you.
But I don't think we should be asking him, we want to start. I think we should start, but start gently and succinctly and you know, a couple of hundred words of abstract describing what others do and why they do it and why we should do it. And then let them mull it over.
Okay, let me talk to Tracy and find out when she might anticipate attempting to get this on the agenda for a select board meeting. I don't know what their schedule looks like. So, you know, if it's a week from tomorrow, it may be a moot point. If it's a month from now, it's something different we can start to play with. So let me double back with her,
Every 2 weeks.
and I'll let folks know once I do.
So it'll be
Is that
2
good?
weeks tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, just as a reference, there's a select board meeting tomorrow night, so you're probably looking at their other 2 week schedule now.
So it's every 2 weeks. Okay. So yeah, in all likelihood, it would be earliest 2 weeks from tomorrow to get it on the select board agenda, I would think, because the agenda for tomorrow's meeting is already out. So okay.
So for next Tuesday,
November 9th.
well, it has to be an agenda item submitted
Yeah.
a week from tomorrow.
Okay. I'll speak to her about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
In the meantime, I will scan that section of my manual so that
That'd
people
be
can
great,
have some
thank you.
reading material.
Okay, in terms of other new business, Diane, you just started to mention about the personnel policy. Where's that exactly?
So after our last meeting, all of the drafted changes were sent to town council. Basically, they were wordsmithing. There was a case precedent that affected one area. Well, there were two areas in particular that Tracy wanted them to look at. So I had a scheduled call this morning with town council that got canceled, so I don't have an update, but it is with them. I know that they're pretty full on their caseload right now.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I had hoped to have an update for this meeting. It was sent right after the last one. They
Okay, so
have
it's
it
moved
in
forward,
their
it's in their hands.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll follow it through. Again, I was supposed to have a town council
Right.
call today, but it got canceled.
Okay, thank you.
So, and if I have something before the next meeting, I will send it out for review so that when we come to the next meeting, we'll have it. I'll send an update.
Thank you. And John, the only other trailing item was the conversation you had with Matt Cooper relative to the org chart. Anything new there?
Nothing new there. I could circle back with him, but that was supposed to be in his court.
Okay, he needed to add a license, I guess?
Yeah, he
Is
was
what you
doing
talked about
something.
last
Yeah,
time?
he had to buy Visio, or he had to buy a license. I forget the program he was talking
Yeah,
about.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's ongoing. Thank you. Any other business to address? New business, no? looking at our next schedule, it would be the fourth Monday in November, the 22nd, which is the Monday of Thanksgiving week. Everyone is, as of now, available for that?
Yes.
Let's plug that in then, Monday, November the 22nd at 4 p.m., unless we talk otherwise. Thank you all. And if there's nothing else to address, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
For a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.